Okay, so just stop smiling for the camera and start talking about Chaos Walking and give your positive reviews if you can. But if you go negative, don't get mad. Oh shoot, I shouldn't have said that out loud.
Shut up!
They would have heard it so out loud.
Shut up!
Ugh, I can't help myself.
If you don't stop talking, can you let me do my review in peace without you interrupting me? Right?
Okay, I'll stop talking and let you review Chaos Walking without you in my head.
Anyway, let's get into this review, eh? Hey guys, what is up? This is Ben Folgan's Media Corner and welcome back to another movie review, aka For Us All. And today I'm going to be talking about the 2021 dystopian action sci-fi adventure film known as Chaos Walking. Now, Chaos Walking, this was directed by Doug Liman, director of The Bourne Identity, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Jumper, Edge of Tomorrow, American Made, and The Great Wall, and a whole bunch of other films. And this is one of his second films being released this year, 2021, because he had his first one would have been Locked Down, which I haven't seen that film yet, but I will check that movie out at some point, and I will do my AK After Us All review of that whenever I will check out that film. So this is his second film being released this year. And however, this film was originally shot in 2017, and they ended up having to do reshoots in 2019, and so we ended up getting a newer version this year. So that's pretty much what happened during the whole production history of the film. So anyway, let's talk about the story of this film. So Chaos Walking centers on this dystopian, futuristic world known as Princeton, where basically we follow this young man named Todd, played by Tom Holland, who has brought us to believe that there's this speckle of germ, that this group known as the Speckle have released a germ that's pretty much killed all the women, because for his world that he's living in, there's pretty much no women around. There's only men who are living on this planet, and basically they also have this ability called noise, where they pretty much hear what people are thinking in their thoughts, in their minds, thinking what they're actually saying in their minds. If anything, say if anything goes wrong for them, we see this delusional thing in their heads and whatever they're saying and thinking in their minds. And what happens is something crash lands in the woods where Todd lives. He finds out what crashed in the woods, and it was a spacecraft where you see this silenced girl named Violet, played by Daisy Ridley. She pretty much doesn't talk much in the film, but she pretty much arrives to the world where Todd lives, and then suddenly we see how Todd's trying to deal with this whole situation, since again there's no woman on the planet, on this in this planet where he lives, and pretty much he's forced to go on the run with her when this mayor, played by Mads Mikkelsen, is pretty much after them. And so we basically see Todd and Violet trying to survive, and hopefully they can outrun the mayor himself. So that's pretty much the story of Chaos Walking. So for going to Chaos Walking, I heard this was based off a book, which I've never read, but my friends have read the book before, but I didn't even know what to expect from the film. I didn't even know what it was about, but I did check out the trailer before seeing this film. And from seeing the trailer, I didn't even know what to expect from it. I wasn't like, oh, I don't know what to expect from it, because I think it kind of looks like it's going to be pretty, I don't know, maybe boring or something. But I heard the reviews for this film, and I wanted to give this a go. And I was familiar with every people who worked on this film, like the director Doug Liman, which I think he's a talented director. He has made some really damn good movies, The Bourne Identity, Edge of Tomorrow, those movies, and he has made some pretty entertaining ones as well, like Mr. and Mrs. Smith and The Great Wall and so on. And he has made one which I don't think is really my favorite of his films, which is Jumper with Hayden Christensen. I'll do a review of that on my channel, as well as those movies I did mention in the opening when I just did my introduction there. and I was familiar with the cast members: Tom Holland, of course, from playing Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Daisy Ridley from the sequel trilogy of Star Wars, which she is a badass in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. And you got Mads Mikkelsen, which he's such a great actor. Even playing for villainous characters, he can always play them so well. Since I first saw him in Casino Royale, he's by far one of my favorite Daniel Craig Bond villains I've seen in the Daniel Craig era of Bond. And you got like Nick Jonas as well in the film, and there was some other familiar faces in the film as well, which they were pretty much a big surprise to see who were in this movie. And I didn't even realize this film did face a bunch of reshoots when, again, this film was originally shot in 2017, but they ended up having to do reshoots in 2019, and then we ended up getting the newer version we got this year. This was already released in March in the US, but it came out in the UK to rent, so I watched it at home on the Fire Stick to rent, and this movie, I can see what people will like with this movie, because I really wasn't a fan of this movie. It's not the very worst film I've seen so far for this year, 2021, but it was really dull, and it was just a really boring, messy film, because the effects in this movie, when we do see how this thing called noise, where we see people's thoughts in their minds, seeing that on screen, it was just really a mess, because it's been like sort of like kind of like a wave of like a wave bubble of sorts. It's not like a thought bubble like in like say like a cartoon or something, but it's just like sort of like a wavy kind of like thought stuff, and it has some images as well, which didn't really play out so well because it was too hard to see what the characters were thinking. And for seeing that as well for other characters instead of Tom Holland's character when he does that on screen, I just thought it was just really, really, really bad, and really it was too bad. It was difficult to look on screen as well, because it was too hard to basically see like what we actually see in Tom Holland's mind of what he's thinking throughout the entire film. And he also can pretty much control it as well in the film, which it almost can come as like as a bit of a comedy, even though it tries to have a bit of sense of humor for being as well as a bit entertaining while being kind of action packed at the same time, which it didn't really work out for me whatsoever, because it just kind of failed out while I was watching it, because I was just getting bored of like what was really going on in the film. However, for Daisy Ridley's character Violet, which she doesn't talk much in the movie, she's really much like kind of silenced in the film until she's forced to go on the run with Todd in the film. She was fine, I'd say, but there wasn't really that much to her character that I didn't really have anything for her in the film. And I forgot to say for Tom Holland's performance in the film, he was trying, but he wasn't really bad in the movie. I thought he was fine. The acting were fine, but they were pretty much wasted of like what they were given for this movie. This when the whole like reshoot took place back in 2019. And for the writing in this film, I heard the script was originally written by Charlie Kaufman, and there were some creative differences that he wasn't a fan, that he didn't appreciate. So I heard he's got no credit in this film, which the writing in this film felt pretty lazy, and it also kind of felt really extremely dull of like what was really going on. And to me, this film just felt it did have potential from its story, because from the story, from what I've heard from the book, even though I've never read the book, but the story I heard it's really good for, a dystopian world where there's no women until, a young man finds a woman, and then this like whole like thing that he has that called noise, where we do see what men are thinking in their minds. It does sound pretty interesting, but really though, for its story, like again, it did have potential for this film, but it just fails at it because of what we're watching. It's just really a dull, messy movie. It is also extremely slow as well. It did feel pretty slow from what I was watching, because it cuts back here and forth when we even see, Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley on the run, as well as come back to Mads Mikkelsen in the movie where he's after them two. Which again, it just felt pretty slow for what was really going on. And I've got to say, Mads Mikkelsen in the film, who plays the mayor in the film, I couldn't believe what they had to do with him, because again, he's just such a great actor for playing villainous characters. But here, it didn't feel like anything new, anything like what he could have done for playing such a villainous role in this film. And he also felt pretty wasted as well. Everyone else, they were fine, but for what they were given, it felt really wasted for what was really going on. But the action sequences, they weren't really that memorable. Sometimes they were a bit passable, but they were really just really forgettable as well. And unfortunately, there was nothing really that could really save this movie, unfortunately. It was just a really dull, boring, messy film. And I think it's probably one of the most messiest films I've ever seen. It's not my number one film that I would say is the most messiest I've ever seen, because there were other movies that I found extremely messy that did have potential, but they just really failed at it. This is probably one, and this will be probably one in my list, but I'm not sure where I'll put this one. But overall, just Chaos Walking, yeah, it was just a pretty dull, boring, and messy film with a lack of potential that the film could have had, but it just fails at it pretty bad. Not extremely bad, but pretty bad for the most part. So overall, I'm going to give Chaos Walking a D+. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching for my review of Chaos Walking. If you did see the film, it already came out in the US in cinemas, and I think it's also available to rent at home on VOD at the US, but it already came out in the US to rent on Amazon or YouTube or Google Play or anything. If you already seen the film, let me know what you think of this movie. Did you enjoy it, or were you extremely let down with it? So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and stay tuned for my next AK After I Saw review. And this has been Falcon's Media Corner signing off.